welcome. Uh, I know people always in this event tend to come a little bit lower later. Is the sound adjust? Yeah, yeah. So they're working on the sound to get it right for here and also for the streaming. Nice to see you. I see some familiar faces and I see some new faces, so that's really lovely. Yeah, and it's this is really a time of change for the foundation. Two people who were very close to the foundation have passed away this year: Michael Cronin and Mark Lee. And so it's all different. It's like we're transitioning from the generation who was close to Kay to the generation who maybe have seen some of the has maybe seen Kay talk, but we're not as close. It's really a big change for all of us. And of course, I mean, Krishnamurti was 93, so the people who were with him, and he already passed away, what is it, 86, that's 40 years ago. So that group of people will be less and less. So there's it's time for a new generation to emerge. Because the questions, of course, that Krishnamurti put haven't gone away. To be honest, I think everybody who really works with these questions knows that they're more important than ever, as they point to human potential and meaning in a way that maybe hasn't been said before. And I will repeat myself. As the Krishnamurti Foundation, we of course disseminate his teachings, and we have an archive to preserve his teachings. But we not necessarily focus on Krishnamurti himself. The main thing is really what was Krishnamurti trying to bring in as aspects of our human existence that are relevant at this point of time. And as Krishnamurti also many times said, it's not for anybody to accept those or for anybody to believe those or to follow those. All those things are actually contrary to what Krishnamurti talked about. And it's actually a very important question, what I think why we're all here. Of course, that's quite a big stress because I can't read your mind, but I think why we're here. It's because of meaning, right? It's because somewhere Krishnamurti speaks to an aspect of us that we know, that we somehow are aware of, maybe partially aware of, and that we somehow, and it's not coming to the forefront in our day-to-day life. Our day-to-day life is dominated by pleasure, pain, conflict, thinking over things, but at those little moments in our day-to-day life where, we look at a mountain or we look at some nature and something else comes through, which is really where meaning is, right? Where we know there's interconnectedness and where there is a sense of beauty which is not made by us, it's not constructed by what our prefrontal cortex or our whole predictive mind is occupied with. And it's very difficult because all of us, we are in this brain, in this body, which is dominated by all these hormonal processes. And that's the reality that we mostly perceive, that we're mostly in. You can even say that we're more or less all addicted, right, to those processes, to the pleasure of dopamine or serotonin or what have you, the other hormones. So jokingly I often say, so it's a kind of AA, right? But for everybody, even though you're not taking drugs, you are swimming in drugs, and that determines who you are and how you feel and what you believe, because everything you believe, any form of authority that you accept, leaves behind a kind of sense of a feeling of that's true. So the looking at these questions of Krishnamurti, what he points out is tremendously difficult, because even before you start looking at a different level of questions, we already have assumed things to be true, and we're not aware. We have a blueprint. I mean, in the West, where you have more a Christian tradition, you will think about it in good and bad, or some kind of religious connotation. But although maybe you dropped your religion already way behind you, but still that will be there. From the Eastern, the same. You will have the karma or whatever, the rebirth as thing, and you will look at that in that way. So how to become aware of the subtleties of our mind and how we, in engaging in these questions, is a tremendous challenge. And for that challenge we're here, I feel, to know that we are this, that we're skeptical about what we believe, but that we're willing to look and to unravel anything that's within us. And that requires a kind of radical questioning, a mindset that's willing to go there. And friends and people here, you can engage with these questions, because that's maybe what we have in common, that maybe we don't like it, but we want the difficult questions to be put to each of us. Yeah, and so for new people here, like to emphasize that it's not about, there's no person here who knows. So if anybody comes to you and says, hey, I know, I can tell you about Krishnamurti, then be double skeptical. And of course, you have many people here who worked at this, and who have studied this, and have looked at this and discussed this, but it doesn't mean that you should believe them, but you should discuss them and explore with them. So that's an important, and I hope we can create this, because we need to do that together, right? Create this climate of inquiry, where somehow we feel safe and trust that we can put a question that is maybe difficult to hear, and our conditioning is so strong. If, I don't know, this is more California, but if I say to you, just as an illustration how strong these feelings are, if I say to you, Trump, half of the group here will mean, oh, Trump. And if I say Biden, half of the group, Biden, we're unable to look at that. Same Israel or Palestinian. If you look at those words, the words immediately get a visceral thing in you, and you will be unable to look at this. If I say Christianity, question that. If you're in that, the viscerality of that is so strong that will inhibit you to look at that. So of course, now is it possible to see that whole train of response, the viscerality, the justification of it, and with that then engage? Not to deny it, not to suppress it, because that will be even worse, right? Then you get a kind of controlled state. But to explore this, knowing that each of us have these kind of visceral things, and it's more or less depending on time, place, circumstances, what you have accepted to be true. Yes, so of course the theme for this weekend is the future of humanity. Now also that theme can be sounding a little bit misleading. It's not intending as an apocalyptic thinking about, oh, humanity is going to shit or something. It's not, to bits. Or from an extinction point of view or something. It's not. We had a long discussion. We had a panel discussion later this morning, but one of the person said, hey, it's actually about the future of our humanness. And can we grow into our full potential? And I feel that's really what the challenge is. Is entertainment and the seeking of pleasure going to dominate the human species, especially when you look at AI, or are we going to go inward and deeper? Some practical things. If you want to buy lunch, there are lunch tickets at the info booth. If you want to have information about what's happening this weekend, there's this wonderful booklet which you can find at the information booth. Let me make sure that I've covered all my bits. Yeah, and you know, I mean, just one thing. You till 2 days ago, the forecast was sun and warm, so we shouldn't trust that anymore. The forecast, but despite the weather, we're on a special, really beautiful campus where inquiry in these kind of questions has happened from the 20s. So please enjoy and roam around and connect and make new friends, and because that's what this campus is for. I would like to introduce to you our piano player today, Scott. Scott Hiltzik. And Scott Hiltzik's music, and so I'm going to read it out because I think I need to read it out because impromptu I wouldn't do it as well. So Scott Hiltzik's music has been featured at world's finest venues and Grammy-nominated recordings. His compositions have been performed by major orchestras, including the Baltimore, San Francisco, and Atlanta symphonic orchestras in venues ranging from Carnegie Hall and Sydney Opera House. His music integrates many genres. Scott follows the muse where it leads, from the piano to the orchestra to world music, from writing songs to writing haiku, musical and theatrical plays, and currently a book, Everything is Music. Krishnamurti's teachings have inspired and deepened his understanding of music and life. And Scott has been a dear friend. He's been around for many years, and I invite you to listen.
afternoon.